Yeah. Okay. All right, we've got 2 sessions on pricing and 3 group activities we've got to complete tonight. So we've got a bit to do.
3 more?
Huh?
3 more?
3 more group activities? Yeah. Yeah, that's just warm-up. That was just for the sheep station. Now we've got to do the real work. All right, talking about pricing. So pricing is, remember way back we talked about the 4 Ps of marketing. Well, this is the last one we look at, P for price, and it's the one that sums up all the others. All the others are basically, once we've determined what we're going to do with the other Ps, then that feeds into then obviously what we've got to charge or price for our goods. So again, looking at our 3 horizons, and this is, I'm just doing this every week to just try and tell you that every time you're thinking about a strategy, make sure you break it down into, is this something we want to do in Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3? So sometimes it's a great idea that you're talking to someone about, but say to them, but that's probably a Horizon 2 or Horizon 3 thing. Remember, sometimes I talk to you about doing Horizon 1 and you'll say, but Peter, I don't want to go into that. But I'm going to say that's the easiest traction. That's where you'll get your traction. That's where you'll get your start. And once you've got your start, you can work your way through to Horizon 3. So, you know, we can't afford to be too idealistic about going into business. Business is a very horrible thing. Business doesn't have a respect for anyone. You know, you might be the nicest guy in the world, it'll still send you broke. You know, it's a bit like gravity. You know, nice people that step off buildings don't end well. You know, and the same with business. Business follows very set procedures, and whether you're doing it for a noble cause or for an ignoble cause, it's going to be the same. So I want you, when you're thinking about your strategies, think to yourself, is this a Horizon 1, 2, or 3 strategy? So in Horizon 1, in pricing, we're really just thinking about customer acquisition. We need to get customer acquisition, means the money we spend to get customers to come and buy from us. Then we talk about how can we build a merchandise so that we can start making some reasonable margins out of this. And then finally, we're not even thinking about price in Horizon 3. We're thinking about what do customers value and how can we provide that. So that's the strategy we go through. So in customer acquisition, you're trying to get people to try you. That's all you're trying to do, just to get people to try you, to repeat, to refer. Often in this period, you're talking about discounts or giving extra value, 2 for 1 buy, you know, because we've just got to try and get people to shop with us. This is not a profit. This is not the time to be thinking profit. This is the time to be thinking customer acquisition. But if you don't start thinking about profit sooner or later, you're going to go broke, aren't you? So, but not in Horizon 1. Horizon 1 is just about getting people to try you. Horizon 2, you're talking about really starting to get a balanced assortment. In the early days, you might start off with just 3, small, medium, and large, or cheap, best fit, quality. Or, you know, you might just start off with a very limited assortment, because limited assortments are very, very easy to manage. But as you get through that initial attraction period, you might look to expand your assortment and get a nice balanced assortment. And when you get a balanced assortment, you're able to get better margins on these products, and, you know, that'll compensate for the ones that you're doing cheaper. So that's what you're doing really in Horizon 2. Horizon 3, this is where you really go out and explore some products that customers really value. These are the things that your customers, you know, your customers absolutely love these things. And that's when you can start chasing things which we call tonight subjective margins, where you charge above and beyond, way beyond the costs that you've incurred. And the customers are quite prepared to pay it because you've got them in a situation where value is all they're thinking about. They're not thinking about price. You know, I said this, I mean, it's just wrong. You go out, those of you that have been married, and you take your wife out for an anniversary dinner, it's the wrong time to be quibbling about the price. You don't get the bill and go, oh, that's a bit, you know, this is the time to sort of be making it an experience and an occasion. You just don't want to be quibbling over the price because you're thinking about the value, not necessarily about the price. So just a couple of quibs from people like Warren Buffett, who happens to be, I think he's 2nd, 3rd richest person on the planet. Price is what you pay, but value is what you get. And you've got to, as we get along, we've got to make sure we have a good understanding of the difference between price and value. And I'm often saying this, the best value is rarely the cheapest. Some of you probably already follow this, that you could buy You could pay $33 for a pair of boots and buy 3 of them in a year, or you could buy 1 pair of boots for $100 and they last you 2 years. You know, one is 3 times the outlay at the start, but gives you twice the wear or 3 times the wear. So this is what I talk about value, that value and price aren't necessarily locked in together. And customers generally head towards value. Not always. Mostly we make that mistake of going and buy the cheap, don't we? And then you have to go back and buy the cheap again because the last one broke. So just be a bit careful about this concept that you know, you're going to provide cheap. I would much rather you talk about value when you're talking about what you're going to be providing your customers, because that frees us of that price that actually is very limiting on our profit. Couple of pricing traps, we'll cover them early. Setting precedents that lock you in. If you're not careful with your opening special, you find yourself locked into it. But you said that we could get 2 for 1. Yes, but that was an opening, but you didn't say that. So we've come back again. You don't want to offend the customer, so you get locked into this special that you offer. When you're doing specials, you've got to make sure this ends on Wednesday the 10th and ended on Wednesday the 10th. Make sure it's for a limited period of time. Make sure that's very clearly known. Overthinking the importance of price. You know, most of us think that price is the most important thing to a customer, and it's not. It's value. And you'll be surprised how many customers actually don't even consider the price. What they're considering is the value that you're providing. And sometimes that value is related to convenience or other factors that aren't necessarily related to the price that they're paying. So be careful of that. You've also got to, at the outset, and this is a bit funny, you know, here you are trying to come up with a pricing strategy, but I'm saying to you, how are you going to increase that price? Because not so much these days with our inflation rate so low, but when you're living in a high inflation economy, and we may well return to that, you've got to be thinking all the time, how am I going to increase these prices? And there has to be real strategies around how you're going to increase prices. Most wholesalers or manufacturers do it once a year, don't they? Glenn, it's like in January, there's a new price rise. 3.5%. Yeah, the 3.5% goes on every January, you know. Hey?
It's not enough.
No, but it happens every January because they've been on holidays, they come back to work and they expect it, you know. So annual, ongoing, if you've got a big enough assortment, which we had, the last shop we had 100 items in our assortment that we sold. And so we could put 2 prices up every week and we would get all the prices in a year. So rather than doing a January increase, we would say, what 2 prices will we put up this week? And that's what you would do. And you just go through your assortment, and by the end of 12 months, you put everything up. But if you're not doing that, your profit is being eroded because your costs are going up. Your suppliers are putting the costs up. Your wages are going up, usually by CPI and these sorts of things. So, and your rent is definitely going up. They're putting your rent up. So you have to have a price increasing strategy. You might go for replacement, low for highs. Sometimes that's good. If you can do that, you take a product and you don't make it for sale anymore because it's a low margin product, and you replace it with something similar, but it's actually got better margins. You bought better or whatever. So you might have that as your strategy, but you need to have it thought out. The other scary thing, and this, you get this from accountants, and accountants are really good at your tax, and really good at setting up your structures, and really good at lots of things, getting funds from the bank. They're not terribly good with business advice. They don't think like a business. They don't think like a merchant, I guess you could say. And they do the numbers and they say, well, you really should be getting 52% GP on your products. So the small business person or the startup business person goes back and they get their products and they put 52% on them all. But that's not the way to add products. What you should be doing is making 100% on some products, 10% on others, based on what the customer's expecting to pay. You've got to be thinking about what can the market bear. And so this is called is merchandising your margins. You don't just go and put a flat percentage on it all. At the end of the day, you still come out with the accountant's 52%, but you don't put a blanket 52% on everything because you will be overpriced on some products and underpriced on others. So you need to be so aware of your market, and this is why you've got to serve on the front line. You're so aware of your market, you know what you can get away with. I've got a tool tonight to help you look at that in terms of which products can have high elasticity, which means they can charge a lot and still not lose sales, and which ones you've got to be careful about. So we'll look at that as one of the things. This is probably the scariest business model I ever get supplied. And I say this on the back of the fact that one of our businesses is just exactly this. We actually are going to build a sustainable business by being cheaper than everyone else. We actually are doing that. But you're talking about an experienced entrepreneur that's been there, done that, and knows how to make it work. Mostly people that are inexperienced that say, what we're going to do is be cheaper than everyone else in the market. All that says to me is you don't really know the costs of running that sort of business. Because once you get in and understand all the hidden costs that you didn't know about, you'll soon find that the cheapest price, the reason why the market charges $5 for that product is because of all the costs associated. And you, when you go and say, but I'll do it myself and I'll do it and my mate will help out and all this sort of stuff, and we'll do it for $2.50 and build a sustainable business model. You won't, because eventually your mate puts his hand out and said, I need to be paid. Eventually you yourself has to be paid a wage, and all those things that look free at the start end up having to become costs, and then you end up saying, you know what, we should be charging $5, otherwise we're going to go broke. So there's a reason why the market sells things for the price it does. That's the price you need to make money, sustainable money. So just be very careful of that business model. I'm happy to hear stories and tell me about them, but it wants to be really thought through. If price is your major competitive advantage, I would much rather you get a competitive advantage around convenience, or about supplying a niche, or supplying a particular customer segment in a particular need. These things are much more exciting because they don't come with reduced price. They come actually with add-on price or subjective margin. So I'm much more interested. So be careful of that one. This is what goes into price, guys. When you get charged the price anywhere, including the price you paid for this course, when you get charged the price, there's the production costs, the cost of actually producing the product. There's the distribution costs, the costs of actually operating that business. If it's a retail store, into there would go all the things like the rents and the rates and the insurances that are going to be paid. Quite often the business is borrowed to build that business, and there's cost of capital. So there's costs associated with funding the venture that have to be paid for. There's statutory costs. There's all sorts of taxes and licenses and fees that are imposed on a business that need to be covered. When we charge a product, when we charge a price, we have to cover all of those things first before we even start to talk about profit. So all of those things are covered. Then what we talk about, we need to get a profit that keeps the guy supplying us. If you love your coffee shop, you'll make sure that they're profitable. You know why? Because if they don't profitable, the guy's going to sell up. The guy's going to sell his business or sell what he's got, sell his equipment, put the money in the bank and make more money out of his interest on the bank than he will out of supplying you. And if you really love that, it's a convenient little coffee shop, make sure they're profitable. And so if a business isn't getting a sustainable reward, if a business person's not getting that, they're not going to keep supplying it. So we need to build that into the price. The thing I want to talk to you tonight about, so this is cost recovery. I want to talk to you about how you get that extra bit. And this separates a business from a struggling business that pays wages to a business that makes good return on investment. See, I got there eventually there. Subjective margins is what gives your business the ability to make a sustainable return on investment. And this is what separates a business from being just working for wages, which so many small businesses are. When you said to a small business, how much do you make a year? Okay. How many hours do you work? Divide the two. It's about a McDonald's senior's wage. That's about most businesses. That's where we work, you know. And to get you into a proper business that gives 40% return on your invested capital and pays you the wage that it would cost you to replace yourself in the business, which is what I call a proper business, you need to chase subjective margins. And I want to talk to you tonight about how to do that. When you're doing pricing, when you're trying to think through pricing, you can look through it a couple of different lenses. One, you can look at the costs. Like you can sit down and do an analysis and say, what does this cost me? Okay, it's $10 it's cost, so I want to get a 50% margin, gross profit margin. I'll sell it for 100 at 50% gross, twice that price. But you can look at the cost and then work out your selling price based on your cost. That's one way you can look at it. You can look at what competitors are doing. So what are all the competitors doing? And we need to price ourselves either a little bit up, a little bit down, or about the same as our competitors. That's another way of thinking about pricing. And the final one is to think about customers, thinking about customer need. What is the price that the customers will bear? And this is very situational. Like I said, glasses of water don't sell real well in this classroom, but I reckon I can sell glasses of cold water for a really good price if I just find the right situation. So what the customer is how can I set my business up to serve a particular customer in a particular situation, because that can determine our pricing. So let's look at a couple of ways that you can go about pricing, and then we'll do some tonight. So schedule of fees is pretty easy. Schedule of fees is often used by who? Who does schedule of fees? You know, they look up a schedule of fees and they charge you. Doctors, probably, yep. Who? Lawyers, big time lawyers. Most professionals, they have a schedule of fees, and sometimes they're really nice. Those of you that have one, it says, you know, $1,500, but say $1,200. They give you a discount. It's really nice. So they look up their schedule and they say, we're allowed to charge you 15, but we love you so much, we'll charge you 12 for signing that tax return for you. No, they're good people. Competitor comparisons. That's another way we can do prices, can't we? We can just go and see what the competitors are charging, see, and then match our prices, usually around the same sort of price, particularly for high competitive products. When we're talking about industry gross profit, this is usually your accountant's recommendation. They will set that for you. Accountants usually know, because accountants get access to tax information, and tax information have done massive analysis of businesses, and they know what gross profit every business makes, which is why they know when you've been skimping and not reporting cash flow, isn't it? You say, oh, no one's going to know about that. Well, when you take that money out of the business, it reduces your gross margin. When that gets to a certain ding, ding, ding point, you get knocks on the door that said, we need to chalk. So you need to know what that margin is. I won't talk anymore on camera, but anyway, you need to know what that margin is. Accountants know that. And that's why they'll say to you, sustainable businesses in this area have a gross profit of around 35% or 52%, and they will know that figure. But that's what I'm saying to you, don't just take that figure and apply it to all your products. You need to merchandise your margins. You need to put higher and lower on your products. You still come out at 52, but you don't put a blanket 52 on your products. Negotiation, big ticket items, you go in and negotiate. You know, you go and negotiate a price. That's another way to do it. Big ticket items often do that. Non-for-profit restaurants, I don't know whether any of you shopped at a place like this where you pay what you want. Have you ever tried them? The reason you don't see them around is they're not very profitable, are they? Pay what you want. Yeah, you don't see a lot of them. You see a lot of the charities try to do it, but it's very confusing for customers. You know, you're much better off charging a price and say our profits go to charity. It's probably a much better way. Paying what you want just doesn't seem to work. You know, we seem to attract the wrong sort of people. By tender or required profit, so quite often governments, when they want products, they will put it out to tender. So you'll look at your costs, you'll work out what margins that you want, and then you'll submit that. So that's another way in which you can work that out. So there's various ways you can do that. This one is the one that I'm particularly fond of. This is one that's developed since the start of the internet, and it is by far the most successful pricing model that's going, and it's called freemium. And you've already discovered that with Weebly, haven't you? You can have all these things for free, but as soon as you want those added features, these ones over here, you got to pay for them. But it's successful because at least you get to try a product as a minimum. You at least get to try the basic features. You actually get that feeling that they're giving you something of value. But actually what's happening is that they're locking you in. And you actually get quite good at Weebly, and then you think, oh, I don't want to have to go and learn another program, so I may as well just take on the freemium option. But look, I love it. I think it's it's something that couldn't happen in a goods environment, could it? You know, you couldn't say, come in, try all of our fruit and vegetables for a couple of weeks. If you like it, we'll charge you in 3 weeks' time. Because you're just not gonna. If a bank started giving away notes, here, try these notes. If you like it, you can come back and shop with us, you know. it couldn't work in a physical, and doesn't work well in a physical, but in the digital world, boy, does it work really well, because you get the customer hooked, you get the customer interacting with you, you get a nice start to your business, and then you can then upsell them with the other things. So it's offering a product or service free of charge, typically digital, such as software, content, games, web services or other, while charging a premium for advanced features, functionality or related products and services. So you can actually sell some goods. I feel we're flashing here. You can actually sell some goods this way by attaching it to a service. So what you can do is have a digital product, and this is what we're thinking of doing, things like giving away certain things for free, but then if you want the workbook, you've got to pay $10, which accelerates the learning. So we might sort of say the learning is given away for free, but if you want to accelerate the learning by being able to apply your stuff to template, you've got to download that for free, for a premium. So if you're clever, you can find a way of, particularly digital products, of finding a way of doing free, but with an add-on that people are quite prepared to pay for, as long as it's not too expensive. All right, a couple of concepts we need to understand. When we're looking at a product, some products can handle a price increase without the loss of turnover. Some products, as soon as you touch the price, your sales just drop. We made this mistake with our can of Coke. In Sydney, one of the directors that was in my company said, I'm not happy about, we were selling Coke really cheap and we want to put it up. We didn't put it up that much, and we lost 2/3 of our business because there was no elasticity in the Coke product we were selling. It was what we call inelastic. Inelastic means if you put up the price, you lose the market share. And those sort of products are these. So it's elastic if you put up, elastic means, I think that's round back to front. I had to ask this before I came. Price sensitive, so prices change have a direct correlation to volume, yeah. So if you put up the price, and they say airlines as well, if you put up the price, then you lose a corresponding amount of sales. So there's a direct correlation between the two. Whereas inelastic, things like prescription drugs, and even fuel to a large extent, even during that price hike with fuel, how many of you stopped filling up your tank with fuel? We all just sucked it and put it in, didn't we? Because that's the nature of that particular product. So you need to understand, now I've got this template that I'm going to show you tonight where you can actually work out which of your products are inelastic and which of your products are elastic. Which are the ones you need to be careful about changing the price, and which ones give you a little bit more flexibility to push the border, push the margins a bit. And this is what it is. Basically, it's figuring out all of these things. Where does your product fit on this scale? You know, where does it fit in terms of a commodity or an experience? I mean, how many of you buy a kilo of sugar and just get, oh, what a feeling. It doesn't happen, does it? A kilo of sugar just gets picked up and put in the basket. But there are other products you pick up and you go, wow, isn't this fantastic? Maybe the Ferrero Rocher that you're not supposed to be buying, some sort of luxury thing, you actually do get that little, that's a nice feeling, you know, we'll put that in the basket. So where does it sit on the experience commodity? Where does it sit on the, is it a primary product? Is it primary, the thing that they've come to the cafe to buy? Coffee, usually. Or is it a supplementary thing, the muffins that are sitting there on the side? You haven't gone to the cafe for the muffins, it's the supplementary product. So the supplementary products usually have a little bit more freedom in terms of their margins, whereas the primary reason they've come to you is usually quite price sensitive. Anyway, we're going to look at all those tonight, you know, whether it's an introductory product, is it a no-frills product, is it highly competitive, and we talk about subjective margins. Has it got a good case for subjective margins, which we'll talk about tonight. And this is it. So if it's down this end of the spectrum, it's inelastic. If it's up that end of the spectrum, I might have those wrong again, but it's elastic. In other words, it can handle changes. I might have that back to front, but I'll talk about it later. Okay, these are all the different creative options that we can look at when we're talking about pricing. We can talk about secondary market pricing. In other words, what they do with MYOB, I think they still do it. If you're a student, you get it for a really cheap price. Same with or they used to do it with Ibis World, that if you're a Commonwealth Bank, you pay $800 for the report. If you're a startup business, you get for 40. So secondary market pricing is where you sell it to people that were never going to buy your product anyway. So you may as well make something out of them. They do want it, they do need it, but they're people that don't have a lot of money, but even $10 out of students is still better than getting nothing. If you tried to charge students the full value, you wouldn't get it. Reference pricing, very, very clever. You know, when you go to the restaurant, there's always a really expensive bottle of wine on there. You know why that is? To take the pressure off the next one down. Because the girl is also looking at and seeing how much of a cheapskate you are, you know. So, you know, if you know, you don't want to go to the really cheap one, but you don't want to go to the really expensive one. But reference pricing is, you know, you buy the $40 or the $50 one because the $100 one, at least, you know, at least you didn't go and splurge. That's what you can say to some people. I didn't go and splurge on the most expensive one. But reference pricing, and you see this in supermarkets too, alongside each other, the no frills band, and together with the other one, you get that reference pricing. I'll talk a bit more about that. Periodical discounting you can do, David Jones half a yearly clearance. This is lost leaders. This is a lost leader when they do all that Coke. They sell it for less than what they pay for it, but it gets you into the store, and while you're in there, you end up buying even the chewing gum, which has got decent margins on it. They get their money back anyway, you know. Penetration pricing, new to a market, you go in with a RACQ, is it, from New South Wales, NRMA, when they came to Queensland, they were doing penetration pricing, trying to undercut, we'll be the cheapest insurer. That was not forever, that was just to get a foothold in the market. Off-peak pricing, you know, this happens in seasonal pricing with travel, isn't it? You can go off-peak and buy much cheaper, whereas a premium season is very expensive. Pubs, just we be careful, you know, happy hours in pubs, that's where that fits. You can do captive pricing. You know, you go and buy this beautiful machine, it's a pod thing for making espresso, yeah, and then what do? They lock you into the pods, don't they? Or the ink printers, you know, you go and say, wow, only $50 to buy that printer, and then you go back to buy the ink and it's $150 for the ink. And you go, how did that work? I'll just buy another printer. You know, they've got captive pricing because the other print cartridges don't fit in, you know, so they've got you. Yeah, you know all about it. Prestige pricing. You can price things so that they are prestige. You know, a lot of you don't understand or don't realise that Crown Lager was a bit budget beer, but it didn't work as a budget beer. So they upped the price, they put some gold stuff on it, and now it's a premium beer. But it started life as a budget beer. Never worked as a budget beer, so they doubled the price, and that's what they did. That's the history of Crown Lager. Quite amazing. So that's prestige pricing, putting a price that actually makes it sound like it's prestige. And people were stupid enough to think that we paid more for it. It must be, oh yeah, it tastes great now. Not like that other cheap stuff. Professional pricing, we talked about that before. Real estates use this a lot. A price list, you know, they say 3% for the first 10,000 and so forth. Discount coupons, another form. We cut out the coupon and take it in, get a discount. Friends referral discounts, refer a friend, get a discount. Frequent flyer, loyalty programs, another form of pricing options that we can look at. Partition pricing, I think this has gone to an extreme now, hasn't it? When you go for your seat now, like if you want the seat that's got a wide, you have to pay more, and if you want a bit more luggage, you have to pay more. Petition pricing, where you pay a price to get on the plane, and then you have to pay extras, you have to pay more for all the little extras you want. And it goes on forever now, doesn't it? Like, they've got everything, you know. Do you want the one with the nice picture on it? You want to be able to see the nice picture, or close to the toilets, I think is a good one to buy. Pay one price, you get this a lot in theme parks, don't you? Pay one price to go in, and then you pay twice as much for all the food while you're inside. No, pay one price often in food. Bundling, I love bundling. Bundling is a really clever thing. I'm old enough to be a McDonald's shopper when everything was single. You buy one of them and I'll have fries with that. That's where that term came from, fries with that. Well, you don't hear them say that anymore because we all buy in bundles, don't we? We all buy, you guys don't, but when I go to McDonald's, it's a meal deal. That's what it is now. They've bundled things up. They put the meal deal, everything comes out now as a meal deal, you know, and it's clever. it's clever. It's a clever way of giving value to the customer, because they probably, I don't know whether they want that or not, but it gives them a total experience. And what the wonderful thing about it hides the price. You know, when you've got a bundle, you can't really work out how much was the burger, how much was the chips, how much was the drink, and you sort of bundle things together. It's really good for hiding, for securing some margin. So I certainly like it. As a business owner, I certainly like it. And then there's the fixed and variable, where you don't do this anymore, do you? Is anyone? You probably don't know what that is. But this is a home phone. You know what a home phone? Long before, but anyway, when I was a kid and growing up, where you would pay, in those days, you would pay a fixed price for getting the phone, and then you'd pay so much a call. These days, it's all about plans, isn't it? So that's it. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to do our groups again. You probably have to change our groups a little bit, because we've grown. So remember, we've got quite a few to get through tonight. So